I have said for a long time, especially when I first came to this game, that the Dead by Daylight community does not know what the meaning of a tech is. I first realized this whenever I started seeing people call basically everything a tech. I learned that there is a tech name for any action in the game that is not like pressing W around a loop or pressing right click to use a power. There are people that were using the word tech in ways that just never made sense to me. And a great example of this, in my opinion, is the quote unquote hole tech. If you don't know what holing a killer is, basically what it means is you bait the killer into the killer swinging, and if they lunge, they could end up falling down a hole because they weren't paying attention. And here's a fun fact. In 1,500 hours in this game, I've never been holed one time. So, in any case, I ended up really solidifying my knowledge that the Dead by Daylight community does not know what a tech is whenever Blight's hug tech was starting to be removed. The most common argument you've seen for people who want it to be removed is, oh, well, actually, you see, it was an unintended bug. It was an exploit. And so the developers had to remove it. And ignoring the fact that that statement, like, has zero nuance to it and is one of the most ignorant blanket statements I've ever heard, all techs are exploits. Every single time a tech is mentioned in a game, it is an exploit. It is a manipulation of something about the game that was unintended by the devs. If it becomes intended later, that is irrelevant. But by the definition of techs are not intended by the devs and are made by exploiting or manipulating something about the code, the engine, bugs, or mechanics that are within the game. A great example of this in Dead by Daylight is the CJ tech. If you don't know how the CJ tech works, basically what it is when a killer goes to pick up, or when a killer goes to break a pallet with a survivor under their feet, if you vault the pallet, the killer will instead be forced to pick up the survivor instead of prioritizing and breaking the pallet. If you as the survivor vault back over the pallet, you then have an open opportunity to get a flashlight save or a flashbang save. This tech can also be used with things like any means necessary or chemical trap. Basically anything that forces you to interact with the pallet as the survivor will override the killer being able to interact with the pallet. Now, do you think that all of that was thought up by the devs? No, it fucking wasn't. What happened was the developers were like, if we allow the killer to break the pallet while the survivor is interacting with the pallet, that will lead to a lot of buggy problems. So let's make sure if the survivor is interacting with the pallet, then the killer will either not be able to break the pallet or will prioritize picking up a survivor underneath their feet instead of interacting with the pallet. And then somebody in the community, I'm assuming whoever CJ is, came along and discovered that and was like, I fucking got it. Another example of this is something like window teching. Window teching is because the killer loses collision whenever they first vault a window. For a very small amount of time, the killer has no collision. Now, I don't know why this is. I don't know if this is a mechanic or if this is a bug or if this is a problem with the code. But in order to do a window tech, you must manipulate or exploit the fact that the killer has no collision so you can go back through the window after they vault it and gain distance. So now that we've covered the fact that all techs are exploits or manipulation tactics, let's go back to the lack of nuance. One of the things that I really fucking hate about the statement, oh, it was an unintended bug, so it had to be removed, is just because something is unintended or a bug does not necessarily mean that it is bad for the health of the game. You need to be able to look at everything individually and see how it affects the game. Stuff like the invincibility locker exploit, or exploiting the merciless storm bug, or right now, as I'm recording this video, hopefully it's fixed by the time this video goes live, but right now as I'm recording this video, the potential energy and toolbox bug, or the infinite endurance bug, those things are not healthy for the game. So it's important for behavior to take a look at those and remove those. But hug teching was healthy. It was healthy for the game. So I don't really understand why we're trying, because like, this is the thing too. This is the thing, is that a lot of people are like, oh, well, hug teching isn't even skillful, because we're talking about skill expression, and this video is about skill expression, by the way. But we're talking about skill expression here, and people are like, oh, it's not even skillful, you just look down. First of all, fuck you. I can't hug tech that well, and now I feel like I'm bad at the game. But second of all, the thing is that just because it isn't hard to do does not mean that it is not skill expression. Just because it is easy to execute does not mean that there aren't other nuances to it, like knowing when to hug tech, or knowing which objects can be hug teched off of, or even the counterplay to hug teching being honestly kind of easy. You know what I mean? But the thing is that techs in general are important because they are a part of skill expression. Imagine a world where we didn't have CJ teching, window teching, I would call FOV teching tech. It's not really FOV teching, but it's, you know what I mean? Imagine a world where we didn't have techs. Imagine a world where Wesker didn't have all of his bullshit, right? Which, by the way, a lot of people have asked me about that. They're like, oh, well, why is Blight tech skill expression, but Wesker's hug techs are bullshit? Wesker's skill techs are also skill expression. And they are also bullshit. Like, those two things can be the true at the same time. Like, no matter how you look at it, I'm not saying that Wesker, like, no matter how you look at it, I'm not saying that Wesker techs aren't skill expression. I'm just saying that it's kind of fucking stupid that you can look to the right, slide to the left, grab somebody who's touching your asshole, and slam them in front of you. I think that's fucking stupid. But it is still skill expression. You can have both these things at the same time. When I say that behavior has a war on skill expression, though, I'm not just talking about the removal of hug teching from Blight. I'm also talking about things like the flashlight buffer that allows survivors to start a flashlight 76 years after I have already picked up the survivor and still get a blind off. I cannot count the number of times I have went to pick up a survivor, finished the pickup animation, turned around, and still got blinded. Or being able to be blinded from the sides. I call it gecko blinds, where the survivor is like completely out of your field of view and still somehow manages to blind you. Or the fact that flashbangs are so forgiving that you can turn completely around and still get blinded by them. This is one of those things that it starts to get really frustrating the more you look at it. Another example of skill expression that's been slowly being phased out is alternative playstyles. So things like hit and run playstyles got massively smacked with something like the mangled and nerf the mangled and hemorrhage nerfs that happened recently are a great example of skill expression being removed. Yeah, it's not very skillful to put on a perk, but it encourages a different and more interactive playstyle than slapping on 4 fucking goddamn slowdowns and letting the game play itself for you. Behavior seems to really dislike the idea of skill expression in this game, and I'm kind of worried for the future. Like, how long is it before they remove stuff like Wesker's dumbass hug teching, or they start making hitboxes for Nemesis and Xenomorph stagnant to where it's only it's only where you initially aim it, so you can't do things like click drag. Like, how many more different cool things that we're able to do are we going to be able to do before they look at removing it? We want more skill expression in this game. We want more cool shit that can be done. We want more, not less. But that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry this video was kind of all over the place. I tried to follow my bullet points as best I can, and I got a little sidetracked. But, of course, let me know what you guys think down below. And as always, a very great special thank you to our channel members listed on screen now. If you want to find out how to become a channel member today, get awesome perks like seeing videos early, purchase discount codes, and more, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one.